Hi there, my name is Yasmin and I am a tutor here at Tutor Impact. And today we are learning about the digestive system. So don't worry if you don't know anything about it, because we're going to be doing this on a very basic level, just to provide a brief introduction about what the digestive system is and what are the components that are involved in the process. So every time you eat something, you might be wondering what happens to that food. And today we are going to look at what does in fact happen inside your body. So to begin with, we need to look at what digestion actually is. So when the food we eat, it goes into our body, it needs to be broken down into smaller pieces, into substances that our bodies can then use. So it's no good eating food and then it being too big to get into our body. It needs to be broken down into smaller pieces that can be absorbed into our bodies to the relevant areas. And that is what we call digestion. So without digestion, we could not absorb that food into our bodies. So we could not use it for the things that it is needed for. So as I said, digestion happens in the digestive system. And the digestive system is made up of a series of organs that break down the food so that it can be then absorbed into our bloodstream. So the digestive system is basically a load of organs in our bodies that work together to break down the food so that our bodies can absorb it and then send it to the areas that it needs those substances for, so that they can be used for different processes. So we're going to look at an overview now of the digestive system. So as you can see here, the first main step on the digestive system is your mouth. And then we go from the mouth down into your stomach, which is the second stage in the digestive system. After the stomach, we then have the intestines. And these are split into the small and the large intestine. And we'll discuss later on the differences between the two and what they actually do. So you start with the mouth, then you go into the stomach and then the intestine. And I think we're going to have some arrows now showing you where these are on the diagram. Here we go. So as you can see, the mouth, I think you might know this one already, is obviously at the top. So when you eat food, it goes into your mouth. It then goes down, what we call the esophagus, into your stomach, which, as you can see from the diagram, is around here. And then the last step before it leaves your body is the intestine. And as I said, that is split into the small intestines and the large intestine, which we will look at later on. So we're going to start with the mouth, which, as I said, is the first step in the process of digestion. So this is where food enters the digestive system. So it's the first stop on the digestive system path. So it enters the digestive system through the mouth. And in your mouth, this is where food is broken down into smaller pieces first. So this is by a mechanical process called chewing. So when you are chewing, so say you eat something, you chew the food. And what that process is doing is the teeth are cutting and crushing that food. And it's also being mixed with saliva, which is the solution that is in your mouth. And this process makes the food in your mouth soft and easier to swallow. So it's breaking it down to smaller pieces and it's making it softer and easier to swallow, which sort of starts off the breaking down process of the food in the body. And after you swallow that food that has been broken down, the food then passes through the esophagus and into your stomach, which we will discuss in a second. So the first stage is the mouth, and that is where food is broken down through a mechanical process of chewing and is broken down from big pieces into smaller ones. And then, as I said, the next step is it goes through what is called the esophagus. Nothing really happens here. It's just sort of a channel for the food to go from the mouth into your stomach. So as I said, quite self-explanatory. It's where the food that starts in the mouth travels down from your mouth into your stomach. So we're now going to discuss the stomach, which is where the esophagus takes the food that you have taken in through your mouth. So the second step is the stomach, and that is a very important organ in the digestive system. So after your food has been chewed in the mouth, where it has been broken down into smaller pieces and swallowed, it enters the stomach via the esophagus. And the stomach itself provides, it has a strong acid in there. So there's a strong acid in your stomach. And the purpose of this is to kill any harmful microorganisms that might have been swallowed along with the food. So anything nasty that is on the food when you eat it through your mouth, this is killed in the stomach. So the acid, that's what destroys the harmful microorganisms that might have been brought into your body with the food. So the first purpose of the stomach is to get rid of any bad things in the food. But the stomach also contains special enzymes. We won't go into too much detail on what these are for this video, but enzymes are another sort of, these are a chemical mechanism for breaking down food. So enzymes are important for breaking down the food further so that it can be absorbed into the body. So they're sort of a second stage, with the teeth being the first one, and then you have the enzymes breaking them down in the stomach. So the two main important steps in the stomach are it kills harmful microorganisms by producing a strong acid. So that is the first step in the stomach. And then the second step in the stomach is that enzymes work to further break down the food through a chemical process. So we first have the acid and then the enzymes. So two things to remember in the stomach. So after the food leaves the stomach, so it goes from the mouth to the stomach, it then leaves the stomach, and the partially digested food then passes into the intestines, where it then begins to be absorbed into the body. Now, if you remember, I said that there are two types of intestines, and we're going to look at the first one first, and they are the small intestine. So as I said before, there are two parts of the intestine, the small intestine and the large intestine. And we're looking at the small one first. So this is where, in the small intestine, is where the digested food is absorbed. So this is where the food that has been broken down by the mouth and the stomach is absorbed into the body. What this means is that it passes through the wall of the small intestine and into your bloodstream. So it goes from the stomach to the small intestine, and then the food passes through that wall of the small intestine and into your bloodstream. And once it is in the bloodstream, the blood is able then to carry the substances that have been absorbed around the body to where they are needed. So the food is absorbed from the small intestine into the blood, and then the blood acts to carry those absorbed substances to wherever they are needed in the body. So it could be taken to a different organ, could be taken to your arms, to your muscles, so that you can exercise, so that you can perform other sorts of chemical processes. But it is the blood that transports the substances once they have been absorbed. So that is the end of that journey. The substances end their journey there when it comes to the small intestine. So after the small intestine, anything that has not been absorbed, so the substances that we need are absorbed, anything else is left, it's not absorbed into the body, and that is then carried to the large intestine. So we're going to look at the large intestine next. So the large intestine, all the food that is not absorbed by the body, that is what goes to the large intestine. So as I said, it is all the food that has not been absorbed. So by the time the contents does reach the large intestine, most of the food you've eaten has been absorbed, but there is often waste materials that the body doesn't need or the body can't digest because it's too large, it can't be broken down, and that is taken into the large intestine. In the large intestine, your body absorbs anything else it can, such as water, before it is then taken through the large intestine, which is then called feces, and we get rid of that when we go to the toilet. So what the large intestine does is sort of the final stage for anything to be absorbed into the body, such as water, and then your body then takes it to get rid of it when you go to the toilet. So that's the final stage of the digestive system. So as we said before, it goes from the mouth to the stomach, to the small intestine, to the large intestine. And anything that cannot be absorbed, we get rid of through the large intestine. So we're now just going to do a quick recap of the processes that we have just discussed. So obviously we started with the mouth. As you will be able to remember, this is where the food is fast broken down into other substances. So that is the teeth breaking it down through mechanical chewing, and the teeth cut and crush the food and mix it with saliva, making it soft and easy to swallow. It then goes from the mouth, down the esophagus and into the stomach. And the stomach, as we said before, is very important in the digestive system, and it has two key sort of stages. The first is that with the acid in the stomach, it kills any harmful microorganisms, which means anything bad is kicked out and destroyed at that stage. And then it also has the special chemicals called enzymes, which further help to break down the food so that it can be absorbed by the body. After the stomach, we go to the intestines. As we said, these are divided into the small intestine and the large intestine. The small intestine is where digested food is absorbed into the bloodstream. Once it's been absorbed into the bloodstream can then take it wherever it is needed in the body. And any food that is left over that cannot be absorbed is then taken further to the large intestine. And by the time it reaches the large intestine, most of the digested food has already been absorbed. So it's just the leftovers. And this waste material cannot be digested, and so the body needs to get rid of it. And it is then called feces, and that's what we get rid of when we go to the toilet. So that is a brief overview of the digestive system. As you can see here, I've labeled these on the diagram. So we have the mouth up here at the start, and then we just go down to the stomach, to the small intestines, which are the ones inside here. And then we go to the large intestine, which is the last stage of the digestive system before your body gets rid of the food. So I hope this has provided you with a good introduction to what the digestive system is, to what digestion is, and I hope that now you're able to highlight the key stages in the digestive system and what happens at each of those key stages. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.